Well, good morning. It's breakfast with the broker time. It's Tuesday, obviously. It's 9 a.m. and we have a really, really special treat for you. You know, in 2022, we're talking about community. We're talking about, especially in January, because we want to push and perpetuate, not just professionalism, but the attachment to community and attachment to what you deeply care about. And our next guest does that more and better than anyone else I've ever met. So, without further ado, and now, by way of Wasaga Beach, Ontario, he's a gigantic fundraiser for Children's Miracle Network. He is a real estate agent at Remax by the Bay Brokerage. He's a professional journalist and photographer. He's a founding member of National Association of Realtors Green designation. He's an ePro, CRS, ABR. He and his wife holds a world record for the longest north-south bicycle journey on public roads in the world. Oh my goodness, 3 years, 24,000 kilometers from the Arctic Ocean to the southern tip of Argentina. He's a father, son, husband, and apparently he likes knitting. Please stand up and make some noise for Bruce, the man Johnson.
David, hi. I think that's the best intro I've ever received.
Awesome. Well, I aim to please, so I certainly appreciate. I've been a fan of yours for a while. When we're going into R4 and we've met several times, and it's just the passion that you have for Children's Miracle Network and the things that you do really extraordinary. Absolutely.
I really appreciate that.
So, Bruce, I mean, like, where does your passion come from? Because when you're looking at like all these different charities to come from and things that are doing, you want to do something different, right? You want to be something that maybe put some eyes on you that wouldn't actually normally put some eyes, so really you're getting awareness and such. What brought you to Children's Miracle Network? Obviously kids, but
yeah, I mean, it was the great gift of Remax. That's what did it. So there's two things that brought us. Our daughter Alyssa Ray was born in 1998 in Toronto, and we'd only been married about a year and a half. And she was born with really, really challenging complications. She had what's called the large omphalocele. We had her for about 20 days, and she passed away in our arms at the hospital in Toronto there. And it was one of the CMN hospitals. And I had been a realtor for about a year and a half. And I was already a miracle agent. My sister Marilyn Rattan is my broker back in Wasaga Beach. And on the day that I was signing my paperwork for becoming an agent, she pushed one last sheet of paper across in front of me. And I hope every agent in the Remax world hears the story and gets that piece of paper pushed toward them, because it's really important. So I said to her, "What's this?" She said, "Well, you're going to be a miracle agent." It wasn't, "Would you like to be?" It was, "You're going to be." And I think every broker owner should do it this way too. And I said, "Well, super. Yeah." And she explained what it was. And I stopped her and I said, "What's a children's hospital?" I was 33 years old. I'd never known in my life to that point that we had separate hospitals for children. I just thought kids got sick and they went to the hospital like we all did. And a year and a half later, we had to listen. Boy, did I learn quickly the great difference between children's hospitals and why we need children's hospitals. It's a complete level of care difference. Like it's nothing remotely close to treating an adult. Everything is smaller. Everything seems to be more urgent. It's an incredible world that we got dropped into. I always say to people, I didn't choose our cause chose us. It literally landed on us when Alyssa was born. So it took us probably about 10 or 12 years to mentally recover. It took a long time, the PTSD and everything else. And we were greatly blessed by having two more kids, Holly and Jocelyn, and they're here in Ottawa. Actually, I'm sitting in an Airbnb in Ottawa. We're visiting our daughters right now. They're both in university. I mean, a lot's happened since then. So that's how we came to be miracle agents. That's how we came to be supporting CMN. But the expansion of that. So we've been supporting for about I guess Holly was 10 years old, and she looked at me and said to me one day, sitting on the couch in the summertime, I think it was 2011. She said, "Dad, when I'm 12, can we go on a motorcycle trip?" It's like, yeah. I hadn't done that in a long time. That was my previous life. I was a motorcyclist before I was a bicyclist. So And we'll come back to the bicycle part too, because my butt still hurts from when you mentioned it.
My butt hurts
So
from
I said, yeah,
Peloton about 6 months ago. So,
yeah. I said, "Holly, yeah, we'll do a trip. Where do you want to go?" And I thought she'd say Montreal or something close to where we are in Ontario. And she said, "I want to go to Costa Rica." I said, "That's an ambitious trip, honey. I've done that before. It's an ambitious trip. But when your kid dreams that big, you gotta try and make it happen, right?" And about a year later, she was having eye surgery. So Holly's been through Sick Kids Hospital, the CMN system, and my daughter Jocelyn's also been there. So all three of my children have been through the CMN system. So she was having eye surgery and it was back in the same hospital. And it's a very tough place for Mary and myself to go. We each have different parts of the hospital. They're very challenging to go to. And mine was the adult patient waiting room. It's just terrible for me to be in there because it's just filled with bad memories for me. So I said to Mary, I'm going to wander around. And I came awake. I don't know how many minutes had passed, but I was standing in front of the room where Alyssa Ray had passed away. And a nurse walked by me and she stopped and she was in front of me. And you know how you kind of blink yourself, you're having a daydream and you blink yourself awake and there's like your scene has changed. So she's standing there and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I guess," tears are streaming down my face. And I told her and she said, "I remember your daughter. She was one of the other care teams, but Alyssa had a very, very unusual circumstance." She said, "Would you like to go back in the room?" And I said, "Not a chance could I go back in that room." She said, "I think it'd be really good for you." And so I did. So she walked in the room with me. She took the time to go in the room with me. And I just stood there and it was this cathartic release, David. I can't even really describe the depth of it, but it just like a washing, like a wave washed over me. And I thought, we need to do more. We need to do more. So I walked downstairs. Holly was in recovery by this point. And I knelt beside her bed and I said to Mary and Holly, the motorcycle trip, what do you say that we make it a fundraiser for CMN? And she loved it. She loved the idea. So that was the birth of the idea to raise money through these motorcycle trips. And since then it's steamrolled and we're about $740,000 raised now. And it's been a remarkable experience for our lives and hopefully for the lives that we've touched along the way.
well, you did something that hasn't been done on Breakfast with the Broker, and we've been doing this about 4 years. Um, you know, you you made me feel and cry on air, right? Like because
It's okay to let the story touch you, buddy.
no, it is, and that,
Yeah,
I guess that's part of the point, right? So, as far as stories, right? Telling the stories and being able to engage, and in order to raise funds for a charity like Children's Miracle Network, you do need to attach. You need to have passion links and links to be able to engage, the people that you're raising funds with. But we need to hear more of these stories because a lot of times what we do is we ignore the stories and we don't feel the stories. And whatever the cause may be, whether it's CMN or other charities or other community that activities, we all need to do more in
right.
2022. We all need to be kind
Especially
and
now.
light. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially
there
now.
there are a lot of people hurting, like a lot of people, and
Mhm.
I'm not trying to make this a negative podcast or
Yeah.
or a show, but there are a lot of people hurting, and we need to do better for those that are are doing okay. We need to do better. So tell us a little bit about the bike trip because you know I mean it's one thing to dream, but I mean I can't even comprehend how grueling that trip must have been just to Costa Rica. I lose you.
I've been doing this stuff since I was about 16. Since I was on the road all the time. Whenever I had a chance and a little bit of money in my pocket, and I would routinely knock on someone's door and say, "Can I camp in your yard?" Like all the time. I've done it. I've probably done it 700 times in my life. Like no joke. So I was on a motorcycle trip to Costa Rica in 1991. That was my second time down to Panama and back. And on the way back up from that trip, I decided to go up to the Arctic Ocean. I took my 12-year-old nephew Jason with me. Excuse me. I picked him up about halfway, and he's now my broker owner. He's the other broker owner in my office. It's the craziest story. Our story is so insane. Anyway, so I've got Jason on the back for 2.5 months.
Bruce, how far is the Arctic Ocean from where you are? Like,
Oh man, I'll tell you exactly from where I'm sitting in Ottawa right now. It's
just to give
it's
like
further
kind
to
of
go
an
to the Arctic.
understanding.
Yeah, it's further to go to Inuvik where we were.
I was just I was just kind of thinking where are you in comparison, and because I would never think I'm in sunny South Florida. I would never say, you know what, let's go to the Arctic Ocean.
Yeah, it's about 4,500 miles from here.
Wow.
It's a
Okay.
haul from Ottawa. So that trip with Jason, we got to the very top of the road where the road literally ends. It's gravel and then it turns to muck and then it turns to nothing. It's just tundra. And we pulled into a campground and it's been snowing for 2 days and we're really cold. It's August. We had no business being there without gloves and boots. It was ridiculous. Tough kid, really tough kid. So we pull in this campground and it's empty. And Jason hits me in the helmet. He says, "Uncle Bruce," and he spots the one campsite with people. He goes, "There's 5 women camping right over there." So we roll in, and it's a really ignorant thing to do. We pulled in right next door because I saw a fire about 4 feet high. I swear to goodness, that's all I saw. It wasn't that there was 5 women. That part didn't hurt. So I got off the bike and I said to him, "Jason, I'm frozen because I've been blocking wind for you all day. I'm gonna go to the shower. And when I come back, either have dinner going or the tent set up." 12 years old, 2 months on the road by now. He could do this. I come back a few minutes later, nothing's moved. The bike's still in the side stand, all the gear's still on it. I'm a little ticked. And then I look over the fire and he's sitting on the ground in one of those crazy creek camp chairs. One of the women is rubbing his shoulders. One of the women is showing him all these fossils. And the woman showing him the fossils is now my wife.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that
Wow.
crazy? So I met Mary at the top of the world.
Wow.
And so we met for 1 hour. We kept in touch. And there was just something. I said to Jason that night in the tent, "I'm going to marry her someday." He thought I was insane. So we wrote back and forth. That's back in the day. Hey, kids, we used to write letters. And being a former journalist, we wrote, Mary's a journalist too at the time. We wrote great letters back and forth.
We sent them by pigeon, I thought.
It was by pigeon, yeah. Staple it to their feet. So in one of my letters to Mary, I said to her, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've tried to go from the Arctic to Argentina twice. I'm going to do it finally. And she had always wanted to do a long distance bicycle trip somewhere. And so I wrote her this insane letter, and I don't know what I was thinking. That's what love does to you. But I said to her, "Hey, why don't we take these 2 ideas and put them together and do my trip on your method of transportation?" I hadn't had a bike since I was 11 years old, man. So
Wow.
I went and I bought a bicycle and I did a little bit of training. I think I threw up my first training ride, and we spent 34 months riding. We flew back to that same campsite, that same exact spot we started our trip. And by the end of that trip, we would have either killed each other or gotten married. And yeah, we got married. And it's been a wonderful life with her.
Love makes you do stupid things.
Indeed, it does.
But now you're a world record holder.
That's where the journey was born, the idea for Holly's trip, because she'd heard about the bicycle trip and all the motorcycle trips, and it sounded really adventurous. And that's why she said Costa Rica. So did that first trip, made it for CMN, raised about $107,000. And we came home and we thought, okay, we can't put this down. Can't turn it off now because we've already started. And we had this great formula started for it. So about 2 years later, we rode across Canada and we raised almost $200,000 on that trip. And we really started to think, okay, the formula is working. And the engagement and the thing that started to fuel us was sharing CMN with RE/MAX agents and the general public who didn't know it existed. Like I did. I didn't know it existed at 33, like I said. So that became a passion for myself and for Holly, and indirectly for Mary and Jossie back home, doing all the hard stuff. I got to ride the bike with Holly through rain and snow and wind and all that stuff. But Mary had to stay home with Jocelyn, missing us, and do all the online stuff and reaching out and finding us places. If we couldn't find a place to stay, she'd look ahead of us. So yeah, I never ever want to minimize the role that Mary and Jocelyn have played in these trips too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's it is amazing, and certainly, this I've heard a lot of your stories. I have not heard those, and I appreciate it. When we talk about community and such, it's obviously CMN is dear to your heart. How's Canada doing? How's the market? How are they? I know that there's a lot more lockdowns or shutdowns and things like that. And, I don't really want to get into COVID too much because everyone else talks about that stuff. But, how's Canada doing?
Doing great. The weird thing is, if you'd asked any realtor probably in North America in mid to late March of 2020, what's going to happen with the market? Every single one of us, all 1.4 million agents in North America would have said the same thing.
Yep.
We're doomed.
Yep.
And a month into it, Toronto, Vancouver, I'll speak to the Canadian market, but I know the US market's having the same issues with inventory. There's no inventory, pardon me. So Toronto, people who lived in 40-story condos didn't want to wait an hour and 20 minutes to take an elevator because there's only 2 allowed in the elevator. So we had this exodus from Toronto, and my market, we're about 1.5 to 2 hours north of Toronto. We live in we'd be the vacation belt of Ontario, because we've got the largest ski resort in Ontario, and we've got the world's longest freshwater beach where I'm from, Wasaga Beach. So we've got these 2 things that border each other. So we're a winter and summer destination for a lot of people. Everybody wants to live there. Lots of trails and boating. It's fantastic. So everybody emptied out of the city and started pouring in. Our market, I think we went up 35 and 29% in 2 years.
Wow.
That's astounding growth, just astounding growth in equity in homes. So it's like everywhere. It's an inventory disaster. That's what I would call it by this point, especially in Canada, because the government isn't doing much to fix it. We need to build more houses. We need to free up more housing. We need to do things that create places that people can live. Rents are going through the roof. It's becoming a bit of a challenge, and I know you guys are dealing with the same thing in a lot of parts of the States too.
It is, because in South Florida, I mean, the rents are just exorbitant. Like, and it's bringing out the best of American greed.
It's human nature, right?
The 3rd grade high school, or elementary school teacher. She's all of a sudden the savvy investor, and increasing rents, 200 and 300%, and all that. So, I mean, it's just, we keep saying, it may not be sustainable and stuff, but when we look at the South Florida market, one of the things I kept saying is that, listen, Florida typically has somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% international clientele in their sales, or involved in the sales. And we went down to like next to nothing, like less than 5%, over a period of time. And now all of a sudden, obviously we're seeing a lot more Canadians. We're seeing South America and even the UK and stuff like that, things that are that are starting to come in. So even if domestic demand wanes, we're getting the international demand coming back. So as far as the market and how real estate agents do things, I've always said in 2022, you really want to, we're talking about community, we're talking about engagement and telling our stories. How do you tell your stories, and where do you are there platforms that you typically tell your stories? Because you're a great storyteller, like you're energetic and such. Where do you tell those stories? Maybe helping some of the real estate agents, because this isn't just a RE/MAX obviously podcast. This is
right.
I have all kinds of brands and whatever on here. How do you tell your story better?
Video. And I'll say it, video. Jesse Peters, Michael Thorne, if you guys haven't taken the video boot camp with these guys, it is the single greatest thing. I've taken it 4 times now. It is the launching pad for careers out there. So any real estate agent, regardless of brand, if you want to kickstart your career, become the mayor of your community, the digital mayor of your community. Get out there and cover events. You don't have to be a journalist, but share wonderful stories and stay away from the pessimistic stuff online. Get out of the mud. Rise above all this stuff. The reason that we're in CMN is it was a natural fit for us, and it's from the heart. So I urge realtors in the communities, find something that speaks to your heart. If you've been fortunate enough in your life to never have tragedy touch you, count your blessings, for one thing, and B, give back. Find a charity that reaches you. You might have a friend who is dealing with cancer, or a friend or a relative who's had a child in a children's hospital. Find something that touches you, because it's easier to participate in these kinds of things when it's driven by passion than when in the back of your mind you're thinking you're going to enhance your business. That is not the way to come to giving back at all. It's disingenuous, and people smell it. They read through it. They sense it right away. If you're not sincere, and if you're sitting at the table with people and you're trying to convince them to list their home with you, if you are not sincere in any of the things that come out of your mouth, word travels fast, my friends. Just lead with your heart. Walk in with your sleeve. I walk in. I take the Miracle Home Rider with me. If I'm going to a home where they don't know who we are and what we've done, a lot of folks, we're a small town, so most folks know us anyways. But I'll take the Miracle Home Rider with me, and I'll put it on the kitchen table on their arms. Back in the day when we could be with people in their houses, I miss that. But it's coming back soon. Anyway, but I'd laugh and go, "What's this?" I go, "Oh, thanks for asking." And I'd lift it off their arms and set it down. I'd always start with the Miracle Home program. And I'd say, "That sign's going to be on your lawn in about an hour." And they'd ask me what that means. And I'd say, "Well, Miracle, I've seen that before, Bruce. What's that mean?" I love when they say that, because it's your reticular activator turns on when you see that sign. You notice it everywhere. It's so, when you involve them in your journey, it's a team effort. It's no longer, the client and the it's the team part of it is what makes me get up every day. I love that part when you're both paddling, or you're all paddling the same direction. It's really important. So walk in those doors, get those sellers, talk to your buyers about what you do, but volunteer and share what you do. If you don't share what you do, people are sometimes, I don't want to brag. You're not bragging. You're teaching other people how to give back. You're teaching other people how to give back. It's really important that people see that. I love when someone posts, "Hey, I bought breakfast for the guy behind me today at the Starbucks lineup." You always have a couple people who, "Why'd you share that? You ruined the moment." You didn't ruin the moment. You reminded me to do it. Right. So share that stuff. Share that stuff. Absolutely.
And it's the value of you as an agent. And, too often, listen, you're always going to have, the quote unquote, hashtag haters or whatever you want to call them. Okay. You're going to have that, that kind of posse saying, "Hey, you need to do this and you need to do that." And, the people that focus on, the good things and the kindness in this world, and continuing to engage their community. Posting docuseries, document everything, because, you can't, the people that say that you post too much, or you know what, everyone is watching. So everyone's watching what you're doing, and you need to continue to do the things that you do and let people know how you do it. Because if, and I always said, like, listen, if you believe you're the best real estate agent for your clients or your customers, then they need to know. But not only do they need to know, their friends need to know. Because what happens if they get stuck with someone who's not as good as you, who's not as genuine and as sincere, who's going to take advantage of them? So then now you're doing a disservice to those clients.
Right.
So I always end and I appreciate all these stories. So I always end the show on two questions, and I'm not sure that you watch Netflix or streaming series, but I will go with it first. Do you watch streaming? Do you watch Netflix and any of that?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a hockey fan, so I watch hockey.
No, I know. Unfortunately, some of the games are postponed for a little bit anyway. So, what I would say is, the question I always have is, what's your favorite streaming series of all time? And then what are you currently watching?
So the streaming series of all time, my favorite, it's a different answer, because I've met a lot of people who don't like the show. But when you look at the show from a screenplay aspect and the direction, the acting, I just rewatched the entire Sopranos, and it's still standing up as one of the greatest TVs of all time. It's so powerful. You get so much out of it the second time. I'm watching 1883 right now, which is by the guy who did Yellowstone, the best Western series I've ever seen. Every 1 hour episode is like a movie production, everything else. So 1883 is blowing me away. I'm not a tree guy. I don't even know who Tim McGraw is. He's a great actor. And Sam Elliott steals every scene, right? And sorry, what was your part two, David?
No. That's it. I mean,
what was the part two?
Best streaming series, and what are you currently watching? I mean, I have not seen 1883. I have seen Yellowstone, and I think it's phenomenal. So I will definitely check out 1883. The only song that I know from Tim McGraw is actually a really amazing song, especially as it comes to like telling your story. If you ever want to like,
Really?
I don't even know what to say about this particular song, but the first time I heard this song, for whatever reason, it got me. It's called "Don't Take the Girl," by Tim McGraw, and it's one of these songs that just definitely listen to it because it just takes you. It takes you down the journey of this girl, from little girl to a grown up girl, and all
Oh, just
the
make me cry. You know me, David.
no,
It'll just
I
make me cry.
know, I know. It's it's a very powerful song. So if you get a chance, definitely check it out. I mean, it's an old time song, but it was really good. Well, Bruce,
Yeah.
it's always a pleasure, and I really, really appreciate you. Hopefully, I'll get to see you at R4. We'll see.
Yeah,
But
we hope. We hope.
yeah. I mean, I'll be there. I mean, I don't know if anyone else will be there, but I'll be there.
If I'm there, I'll be in the CMA booth.
Yeah,
That's my spot.
I'm
That's my
right
favorite
with
spot.
you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
keep
that's
pushing
awesome.
CMN Miracle Agents on all your agents there, David. I know you're a great supporter of the Jack Nicklaus Hospital there. And please, guys, if anybody has any questions about CMN or fundraising at all, reach out to David or myself. We'll be happy to help. Please.
Awesome. Thank you for
Thanks for having me.
sharing all your stories. Thank you for all you do for CMN and for the real estate industry and in Canada. So thank you. And Breakfast at the Broker every Tuesday at 9 a.m. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, guys. Bye.